Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the Wisdom Save podcast. I'm your host and Dungeon Master Sam, and today we're going to be diving deep into the Aboleth on our Monster of the Week segment. So let's get going. Okay, so the Aboleth is super interesting to me. I really love things that involve the ocean. A lot of these monsters that kind of involve the ocean. And for me, the Aboleth is just one of those things outside of like the Kraken itself that really just piques my interest. So let's get going. We have a lot to cover, guys, today. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pull up all the information from D&D Beyond, from the Monster Manual. If you guys have time, grab your book, follow along with me because we have a lot to cover. And like always, at the end of this video, we will have some brand new monsters for you inspired by the Aboleth. And little secret, we have some new art, amazing new art from our artist to go with these stat blocks. So stick around to the end because you're not going to want to miss out for that. So anyway, let's get going. Let's go. We're going to talk about the Aboleth. Before the coming of the gods, Aboleths lurked in the primordial oceans and underground lakes. They reached out with their minds and seized control of the burgeoning life forms of the mortal realm. Their dominance made them like gods. Then the true gods appeared, smashing the Aboleth's empire. But the Aboleths have never forgotten. Eternal memories. Okay, so this is an ability that they have. Aboleths have flawless memories. They pass on their knowledge and experience from generation to generation. Thus, the injury of their defeat by the gods remains perfectly preserved in their minds. Aboleth's minds are treasure troves of ancient lore, recalling moments from prehistory with perfect clarity. They plot patiently and intrinsically across eons. A few creatures can conceive of the extent of the Aboleth's plan. So, also gods in the lake. Aboleths dwell in watery environments, including ocean abysses, deep lakes, and the elemental plane of water. In these domains and the lands that adjoin them, Aboleths are like gods, demanding worship and obedience from their subjects. When they consume other creatures, Aboleths add their knowledge and experience of their prey to their eternal memories. Aboleths use their telepathic powers to read minds of creatures and know their desires. An Aboleth uses this knowledge to gain a creature's loyalty, promising to fulfill such wants in exchange for obedience. Within its lair, the Aboleths can further use its powers to override senses, granting creatures such as its followers the illusion of promised rewards. Enemies of the gods, the Aboleths' fall from power as written in stark clarity on their flawless memories. For Aboleths never truly die. If an Aboleth's body is destroyed, its spirit returns to the elemental plane of water, where a new body coalesces over days or months. Ultimately, Aboleths dream of overthrowing the gods and regaining control of the world. Aboleths have an untold eons to plot and to prepare for the plans for their perfect execution. Okay, so I love the flavor of these guys. Right now, what we have here with the Aboleths are these kind of immortal, fish-like, squid-like creatures who, one, never die, and two, retain memories from past eons. So they kind of just get reincarnated. So there's only ever been a certain number of Aboleths in existence, which I think is super cool. And trust me, there's a lot of things we talk about we will get to when we talk about these new homebrew monsters. But let's walk through this stat block. Okay, so the Aboleth. It is a CR 10, armor class 17, has 135 hit points, with a speed of 10 feet and a swim speed of 40 feet. So you do get some land speed of 10 feet. Now, odds are you're probably not going to be using these guys on land. You're using them in the water, but just know you have that option. Okay, run through its stats. Strength of 21 with a +5. Dex is a 9 with a -1. Cons of 15 with a +2. Intelligence is an 18 +4. Wisdom 15 +2. And Charisma is an 18 +4. Its saving throws is a +6 to Con, +8 to Intelligence, and a +6 to Wisdom. History is a +12 in skills, and your Perception is a +10. You have Dark Vision up to 120 feet with a passive perception of 20. Languages, Deep Speech, and Telepathy up to 120 feet. Super cool. Oh yeah, and these are large aberrations, lawful evil, of course. They look evil. Look at that art. I'll put that up here. There. Amphibious. The Aboleth can breathe air and water, so you get both. And again, hence the walking speed or the land speed. Mucus cloud. While underwater, the Aboleth is surrounded by transformative mucus. A creature that touches the Aboleth or that hits it with a melee attack while within 5 feet of it must make a DC 14 Constitution saving throw. On a failure, the creature is diseased for 1d4 hours. The diseased creature can breathe only underwater. and then probing telepathy. If a creature communicates telepathically with the Aboleth learns the creature's greatest desires. If the Aboleth can see the creature. Okay, so let's pause there. I think that mucus cloud is super awesome, and this is probably something I would, as a dungeon master, lean into a lot. Just touches it or hits it with a melee attack. So anytime in your party, any of your martial characters or your kind of spell sword characters hit this Aboleth, it's going to be have the chance of being diseased. So paladins, you're good to go. Monks, you're probably good to go. Any class that's going to have that kind of innate resistance to being diseased or poisoned is going to do really well fighting an Aboleth. So dungeon masters, keep an eye out for that. If you're running a full party of paladins, they might squash this thing super quickly. But if you're running with a mix of fighters, or if there's no paladin in your group, this is going to be a super big, important ability that we will come back to as well. So let's move on. Let's move on to its action. So it's multi-attack. The Aboleth makes 3 tentacle attacks. This attack has a +9 to hit, a reach of 10 feet, hits 1 target. On a hit, 12, 2d6 plus 5 bludgeoning damage. If the target is a creature, it must succeed on a DC 14 Constitution saving throw or become diseased. The disease has no effect for 1 minute and can be removed by any magic that cures diseases. So like lesser restoration, long rest, that kind of stuff. After 1 minute, the diseased creature's skin becomes translucent and slimy. The creature can't regain hit points unless it is underwater, and the diseased creature can only be removed by a heal or another disease-curing spell of 6th level or higher. So no lesser restoration. Or another, when a creature is outside the body of water, it takes 6 or 1d12 acid damage every 10 minutes unless moisture is applied to the skin before the 10 minutes have passed. This is huge. We're going to talk a lot. I'm just going to apply for this because we're going to talk a lot about this ad nauseum when we get to our next section. So let's keep going. Tail melee the tail attack is a melee weapon attack, +9 to hit, reaches 10 feet, 1 target, 15 bludgeoning damage, or 3d6 plus 5. Enslave, this is an ability they can use 3 times per day. The Aboleth targets 1 creature that it can see within 30 feet. The target must succeed on a DC 14 Wisdom saving throw or be magically charmed by the Aboleth until the Aboleth dies or until it's on a different plane of existence from the target, so it dies. The charmed target is under the control of the Aboleth and can't take reactions, and the Aboleth and the target can communicate telepathically with each other over any distance. Whenever the charmed target takes damage, the target can repeat its saving throw. On a success, the spell effect ends. No more than once every 24 hours. The target can also repeat the saving throw when it's at least 1 mile away from the Aboleth, so that also works too. Legendary actions, you get 3 of them, right? They reset on every turn. You can get detect, so you can make a perception check. Tail swap, you can make 1 tail attack, or psychic drain, which costs 2 actions. One creature is charmed by the Aboleth. One creature charmed by the Aboleth takes 10 or 3d6 psychic damage, and the Aboleth regains hit points equal to the damage of the creature takes. Okay, so let's just talk about the Aboleth because there's a lot going on here. This is definitely could be your big bad monster of your campaign. This can easily be the thing that your players kind of have been working towards. Maybe you've sown the seeds of an Aboleth terrorizing the islands. This is something that you can easily put in. I was even thinking through, I was flipping through the Kobold Press's Tomophos. They have the deep ones. I'll put a picture of them right here. They are also really cool. Maybe at some point we'll do a video on them as well. These are really, 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 really good minions to have for an Aboleth. Their whole thing is about serving the ancient thing of the deep, and that could be a number of things. You could also work for a Kraken or a Hydra, but I think it would work really well for an Aboleth. They have the same kind of like fish features. They're really ugly looking, and they have some really cool psionics and abilities that pair really nicely with the Aboleth. So, DMs, if you want to use this as a tool, feel free to pop those guys in too. I think again, I'll put down exactly what book they're in the description. I can't remember. I think it's the Tome of Beasts. I can't remember. Anyway, these are really awesome, and you could even have the Aboleth charm those guys, and then just use that psychic drain ability to kind of farm HP if these guys are almost willing to sacrifice themselves for their master, right? If you look, these are people that are innate worshippers of this creature. It would make sense that they would throw themselves at this thing to be sacrificed in order that the Aboleth might continue on, which is I think it's really cool. Okay, Aboleth's lair. We're not going to talk too much about this because, well, hold on. I'm looking now. We should cover this. Aboleth's Lair. Lair actions. You can cast Phantasmic Force on any number of creatures within 60 feet. While maintaining concentration on this effect, the Aboleth can't take other Lair actions. The target succeeds on a saving throw, or the effect ends. The target is immune to the Aboleth's Phantasmic Force Lair action for the next 24 hours, although such a creature can choose to be affected. Pools of water within 90 feet of the Aboleth surge outward in a grasping tide. Any creature on the ground within 20 feet of such a pool must succeed on a DC 14 strength saving throw, or be pulled up to 20 feet into the water and knocked prone. The Aboleth can't use its Lair action until it has used a different one. Water in the Aboleth's Lair becomes magically becomes a conduit for the creature's rage. The Aboleth can target any number of creatures it can see in such water within 90 feet. A target must make a DC 14 Wisdom saving throw or take 7 or 2d6 psychic damage. The Aboleth can use its Lair action again until it has used a different one. Can't use this Lair action again until it has used a different one. So, and I love this quote at the very bottom. Could it be that Aboleths are older than the gods? That before the divine ones came to be, such horrors shaped the multiverse? Now there's a chilling thought. Guys, these Aboleths have so much flavor. The fact, again, like I said, that they predate the gods, and the fact that they hold grudges, and the fact that they remember, sets you up really nicely, like I said, to add this Aboleth as your big bad. Or even have a clash between the gods and the Aboleths. And maybe the gods are also, not so nice, not so good as they tend to be. And have your players get caught in the middle of these Clash of the Titans, where all these Aboleths rise up in a perfect plan against the gods who have to kind of defend. And the players are stuck and looking at both of them and going, well, a world ruled by either one of you is bad. The multiverse doesn't need rulers like you guys. So you're gonna give the players this moral dilemma of like, who do we side with? Do we take a third party and try to take on both? Do you try to side with one, take out the other one, then turn on the other one? There's some really cool narrative play that I like a lot. But you know what? Regional effects, you guys can read this on your own. Basically, there's some cool effects that the Aboleth kind of does and emits to just the surrounding area. Which is cool, but I'll let you guys read that on your own. I really, really want to move to our homebrew monsters because the Aboleth is really cool, and I like it a lot. And my big theme with this segment of the podcast is, okay, Aboleths are dope. They're really cool. But they're CR10. You're probably not going to get to fight one for a while. What if you're higher level and an Aboleth is still, flavor-wise, works really well? Traditionally, what we'd have to do is, change the stat block a little bit and adjust it a bit. My goal with this segment of the podcast is to help everyone have a range of monsters of varying CRs throughout from like 1 to 20 that fits for each monster type. So last week we did the Aarakocra. We had some at CR3, CR5, CR7, CR15, CR18, whatever it was. The Aboleth, I want to do the exact same thing. So now I have 2 new Aboleth monsters to show you guys. Let me pull them up right now. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the process I used for creating these. So like I said, I looked at the Aboleth and I went, okay, what are some of the defining features that make an Aboleth an Aboleth? Well, we have that enslave feature. We have that mucus cloud. Those are the 2 that really stuck out to me of like, okay, this is something that makes this creature what it is, and it's kind of a defining characteristic. So let's build on that. So it talks about how the Aboleth, sorry, let me go back. So the Aboleth mucus cloud, let's start there. That's, again, I think an awesome ability, and I really wanted to dial in on this. And I say, okay, so cool. You get hit with an Aboleth attack, the mucus cloud, and you become diseased. That's cool. But what if we made that better? What if we took that, ran with it, and see where it came up with? So I said, okay, what happens? They grow gills, they can be underwater. And I was inspired. I was reading through the Grim Hollow transformations, and I was like, wait a second. What if you had been come in contact with mucus cloud and failed your save? What if you underwent a transformation and became not an Aboleth, but something like an Aboleth, maybe a bipedal spawn of an Aboleth. Well, that's kind of cool. I mean, vampires kind of have that, right? You have vampire spawn. What if we had something called the Aboleth spawn? And that's exactly what we did. He's right here. He's pretty ugly looking. Again, huge shout out to our artist, Aaron. All his information is down in the comments, or down in the description. This guy is pretty nasty. So Aboleth spawns are the prodigy of the ancient Aboleths, created to serve as extensions of their will and as a means to perpetrate their species. These creatures are not born but crafted from the ichor of Aboleths and the corrupted bodies of other sea creatures. Aboleth spawn are a testament to the Aboleth's mastery of biological manipulation and their insidious nature, designed to spread their influence and dominance over aquatic realms. So how these guys are made, in my opinion, and in my world, this is how it's going to work, is if someone comes in contact with an Aboleth, or it's in the mucus and fails, they slowly, over the course of however long, undergo this transformation. And at the end, they become this guy. Super gross and nasty. I just love that. It looks like a lamprey. It's kind of cool. Yeah, so the process of creating an Aboleth spawn is a dark and gruesome ritual. The Aboleths use their mucus to infect and transform captive sea creatures or even unfortunate adventurers. Over time, the victim's body wraps and mutates and their mind erased, and their will is succumbed by the Aboleth's psychic dominance. So there's that psychic kind of enslavability. What emerges from this transformation is an Aboleth spawn, an aberration that combines the physical attributes of its original form with its malevolent essence of the Aboleth. So this also could be applied to, this guy is pretty much like a humanoid. If a humanoid creature had undergone the transformation, Aboleths in my head do the same thing for other monsters. So you could have other types of monsters undergo a similar transformation. They look different, but it would still fall into the Aboleth spawn tier in my head. Let's walk through its abilities and stat block. I'll also put that up right here. We can follow along. So it's a large aberration, lawful evil. Armor class is 15. Hit points is 68. With a 10-foot walking speed and a 30-foot swim speed. So these guys are slow. I'm thinking almost kind of like zombies if they're on land. But where they really thrive is underwater. You get very similar skills and saving throws. These guys also get the mucus cloud. So while underwater, the Aboleth is surrounded by mucus. It's the same thing, except these guys only become diseased. So they get kind of a same version of this ability. And they get that probing telepathy. Okay. I like its actions is kind of where it really gets interesting. Multi-attack, the Aboleth spawn makes 2 tentacle attacks. As tentacle attacks does at +6, it reaches 10. It's a one target hit is a 9 to 1d10 plus 4 bludgeoning damage. If the target is a creature, it must succeed a DC 13 Constitution saving throw or be grappled. Oh, by the way, this is a challenge rating 5. So this is something that you can easily encounter much lower, much earlier in your campaign, way before you'd actually encounter an actual Aboleth. Also, you want to use Aboleth as your big bad? These guys also make really good minions. So it must succeed on a DC 13 Constitution saving throw or be grappled. While grappled in this way, the target is restrained and takes 4 or 1d8 acid damage at the start of each of its turns. So very similar to like before, if you're out of water, that kind of thing, it's damage. This is the same thing. The Aboleth makes an attack, and it can make 2 tentacle attacks, right? I think it has multiple tentacles, so it can make 2 tentacle attacks and grapple 2 people at the same time, assuming they both fail their saving throw. Then it also has the bite ability. Melee weapon attack, +6 to hit, all that kind of fun stuff. Piercing damage. If the target is a medium or smaller creature that is grappled by the Aboleth, the creature must make a DC 13 dexterity saving throw. On a failed save, the creature is swallowed by the Aboleth spawn, and the grapple ends. Swallowed creature, while swallowed, the creature is blinded and restrained and has total cover against attacks and other effects outside the Aboleth, and it takes 10 or 3d6 acid damage at the start of each of the Aboleth's turn. So basic standard swallow mechanics. So the idea here, and also has a tail sweep, which is kind of cool. Kind of knocks you prone, essentially. So the way I like that mentally is that the Aboleth just makes 2 tentacle attacks, grapples as many people as I can, and then the next turn just brings one person and just swallows them whole. This is great to kind of get that pesky person off of the battlefield if need be. But that is the Aboleth spawn. I think this guy, it looks disgusting, and I love him, and I'm all here for it. And I love the idea of monsters that have this kind of like 1-2 punch type of ability, where they kind of can do multiple things. But this is the little guy. We have this guy, challenge rating 5. We have the regular Aboleth, which challenge rating 10. What happens when we get bigger? What happens when we get higher and higher into the CR range? What would a challenge rating, 30 Aboleth look like? And as I was thinking, I was like, wow, what would it look like? What would that do? And then I started thinking about, because I'm also middle of prepping my seafaring campaign that we'll probably start here in a little bit. Okay, what are some of the water-based subclasses? Okay, wait, let's see. What are the other ones? I got to the Warlock and I was like, oh wait, the Fathomless Warlock's kind of cool. We don't have a stat block for the Fathomless. What would that look like? And so what I did is I took this idea of a mega Aboleth. And again, if these guys are immortal and these guys are gods, and they predate gods, then odds are there will be one in the ocean that is big enough, or the Aboleth, capital T Aboleth, that other people, other creatures look to as a god or as a patron. And so what I did is I went and I created the Fathomless. Again, this name is taken straight from the Fathomless Warlock subclass. So in my head, in my world, if you are a Fathomless Warlock, this is your patron. I'll put a picture right here. So the Fathomless is a huge creature. And when I started to design this guy, I was thinking, well, I want this to be something that is huge, that is immense, that you can't fully grasp. You can't fully understand how big this thing truly is. And as I was working through it, and I remember watching, I think Pointy Hat did a video on how to run a Kraken in a very similar way. And he had this great idea of, hey, break up this big monster into multiple stat blocks. So he had stat blocks for the tentacles, and then a stat attack for its main beak. So I thought I would take a similar route with this Aboleth, the Fathomless Aboleth. So we actually have 5 stat blocks for this guy. We have 1 for its main maw, and then 4 separate ones for each tentacle. And there are more tentacles than that, but these are tentacle types, and we'll get to that right now. So the Fathomless maw, which is what we're going to start with, is a challenge rating of 30. Has insane stats. Hit points are 600. Armor class is 22 with natural armor. Has an 80-foot swim speed. And just a whole list of things. I'll let you guys read through that. But let's talk through its abilities, because its abilities is where it's going to really shine and really give your characters kind of that oh crap moment. It's amphibious. It can breathe air and water. Colossal form. The Fathomless Maw occupies a space of 500 feet across. And they can share the space with other creatures and objects and structures. So let's stop there. 500 feet across. This thing is massive. This is right here is a world-ending. Like, if this thing awakens, you're toast. There is no hope unless you have a couple level 20 adventurers lying around. And what I thought is if you looked out in the distance, or you're on a ship and you look out across the waves, and just for like as far as you can see, this massive gaping mouth comes up and just swallows like a whole fleet. That is exactly the vibe I was going for. Initially, it was like several miles across. I'm like, that's ridiculous. That's way too big. 500 feet is still really big. So this thing is terrifying. This thing is something that you don't want to mess with. And this kind of acts as the brain or the hub of the rest of the stat blocks. Everything kind of relies on this. In my head, once this is destroyed, once the maw is destroyed, the Fathomless dies. Because we'll get to how the tentacles work in a second. But this thing is massive. And I want to use this at some point because I think it's really cool. It's a siege monster, so it deals double damage to objects and structures. Obviously, I mean, again, in my head, if you're in the mouth of it, in the bowl, and it just swallows you, you're dead. There's no hope for you. You're done. It also gets the same mucus cloud. We just upped its saving throw. It's now a DC 27 Constitution saving throw, or a creature is diseased indefinitely. So really don't want to mess with this. And this is if you touch it again or make a melee weapon attack against it. This is nasty stuff. Probing telepathy. If a creature communicates telepathically with the Fathomless, the target must make a DC 27 Wisdom saving throw, or the Fathomless learns the creature's greatest desire and innermost thoughts. So basically, it just knows you. Psionics. This is where it really comes into play. So again, think of this Aboleth as like the hub, and their abilities is pretty similar to like how a beholder works, right? You have different like eyes that you can use, different abilities. This is the same thing. So these psionics abilities, they recharge on a 5 and a 6. So again, it's not every turn you can do one of the psionics, but when you can, these are devastating. Absolutely devastating. So they can cast the following psionic abilities, requiring no verbal, somatic, or material components. Fathomless can cast these abilities from its own location or from the location of any of its tentacles. So if you have its tentacles kind of out anywhere else in the world, it can also cast these psionics through those, which is great. So you got mass, dominate monster. That basically is exactly what it sounds like. Reality warp. The Fathomless alters the fabric of reality within 1 mile. Centered on itself, the effect can change terrain, conjure, dismiss creatures, create or dispel magical effects. This change lasts for 1 hour until the Fathomless loses concentration as if concentrating on a spell. So this is its ability to just, almost like think of Marvel Reality Stone. It can just kind of change not change reality itself, but it can warp reality to look different. So I'm even thinking of like Baldur's Gate 3 players, when you're in the swamp, spoilers for Baldur's Gate 3. When you're in this kind of swampy area, before it's a swamp, it looks all pretty, and then the spell kind of breaks, and it looks like a horrible swamp. The same kind of deal. And if you read through the Aboleth's regional effects, it's like that, but on steroids, right? This is something that can just hide and wait for the perfect moment to strike. So that's its reality warp. Psychic devastation. The Fathomless projects a blast of psychic energy in a 300-foot cone. Each creature in that area must make a DC 27 intelligence saving throw. Yikes. On a failed save, the creature takes 110 or 20 d10 psychic damage and is stunned for 1 minute. On a successful save, the creature takes half as much damage and isn't stunned. A stunned creature can repeat the saving throw at the end of its turns, ending the effect on itself on a success. So think Mind Flare Blast, just on steroids. Psychic Storm. It can draw a storm. Again, DC 27 intelligence saving throw, 88 psychic damage, incapacitated. Temporal distortion. It can warp time within a 1 minute radius centered on itself. Each creature in the area must make a saving throw or have its speed halved for 1 hour. So in my head, I'm thinking it kind of like pauses time, so everyone kind of moves slower. That's mechanically how it works. In my head, it actually like cuts time in half, or it's moving really quick. So it has the ability to manipulate time, which I think is kind of cool. Temporal shift. Fathomless warps time for up to 6 creatures it can see. Make a wisdom save or be banished to a timeless demi-plane for a minute. While banished, you're incapacitated, all that kind of fun stuff. Psionic wave. The Fathomless sends out a wave of psychic energy in a 1,000-foot radius. Each creature in this area must make an intelligence saving throw, being knocked unconscious for an hour. On a successful save, you still take 44 psychic damage, and you're not knocked unconscious. And then Mind Rend. The Fathomless targets up to 3 creatures they can see, make an intelligence saving throw, a failed save, 77 or 14 d10 psychic damage, and forgets everything that happened in the last 24 hours. On a successful save, the target takes half as much damage, and you don't lose your memory. So these are really, 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 really broken abilities. And don't get mad at me here. I wanted this Fathomless creature to almost be impossible to beat, because in my opinion, there should be some monsters that are literally unfightable and just kind of add to the lore of the creature and its history. This is one of those things. This is a creature that is really cool. I would like to run it. Realistically, this is not a stat block I think you would ever realistically use. This is something to kind of like help you get an idea of what this monster is, or warlocks, who your patron is, and how powerful they are. But if you do want to run them, the mechanics are here. So again, I would say start with one charge, use that, and then they recharge in a 5 or 6. I might even change that to just recharge in a 6, because these are really broken. It does have some at-will psionics it can use. Detect thoughts, mind spike, borrowed knowledge. These are all very similar to the abilities that for their namesake abilities, but I digress. Okay, so that's its maw. That's its beak. That's its mouth. There are 4 other stat blocks we have to cover. So again, I'll put the piece of art right up here so you guys can see. Oh no, I'm so silly. I have it continue on this page. It has 1 action. So those before, everything we said are just fall under the traits. These are things it can just kind of do. Now we get to the actions. It's 1 action, can use 1 time per day, and it's called Whirlpool. Let me read it to you. The Fathomless can surface and open its maw, creating a massive whirlpool within a 1 mile radius centered on itself. The creatures and objects within this area must make a DC 27 strength saving throw. On a failed save, a creature takes 88 or 16 d6 bludgeoning damage and is pulled 1,000 feet towards the Fathomless maw. On a successful save, the creature takes half as much damage as pulled. Creatures that are pulled into the Fathomless Maw are swallowed. Creatures that are swallowed take an extra 42 acid damage start of the turn. This effect lasts for 1 minute until the Fathomless closes its maw. If it dies, then you're no longer in its maw. So again, think of it's just opening its mouth and just all the water spins and just kind of sucks everything in. This is kind of like a finisher move, and then that's why it's only done once per day, because it's just gonna open its mouth and you're done. Legendary actions, you get 3 of them. You can make tentacle attacks from any of your tentacles. You can psionic cast, use one of its at-will psionics. And Psychic Pulse, the Fathomless releases a wave of psychic energy. Each creature in 60 feet must make a DC 27 intelligence saving throw, take 33 psychic damage, half as much on a successful save. So that is all their abilities. Again, this guy is gnarly. This guy, I put him back up here again. He is disgusting and gross. This is just its mouth. Let's move to its tentacles. So I was thinking through its tentacles, and I'm like, whoa. What if... Because again, we don't want this guy... The odds of us running this guy are low. So I wanted to give us some other stat blocks that we can use in case you didn't want to run the mob, but wanted them to still interact with this creature. So we get the tentacles. And if you do end up running its main, like all of it, you'd also use these tentacles. Each one of them have a different kind of ability. So let's walk through them. Here's the stat block. Fathomless Tentacles, Crushing. This is a gargantuan aberration, lawful evil. Here's all your stuff. Let's just skip all the way down to its abilities. You can say Mucus Cloud, Siege Monster, Don't Breathe. Partition Brain. This is where it gets really kind of interesting for me. Each tentacle of the Fathomless can act independently thanks to its partitioned brain of the Fathomless. So the brain of the Fathomless is kind of split in multiple sections. Despite their autonomy, the tentacles are utterly loyal to the maw and its commands. So in my head, these tentacles kind of think on their own. They're kind of their own being, so that they can act independently of the rest of the Fathomless, but they will always serve what they're attached to, what their master, right? They're never going to betray them. So it gives you the opportunity to kind of have these almost like sentient tentacles, which I think is really cool. Inexorable Force. The Crushing Tentacle can move through solid objects as if it were difficult terrain, leaving a hole behind any object to take damage, that kind of stuff. Dex save, take damage, successful, half damage. So think of it as like, this is the Crushing one. So it can just burrow through anything. And as the way I think about it, it's like burrowing through it and debris goes flying. That's kind of where that dexterity save kind of comes into play. Regenerative Tentacles. I got this idea off of the Hydra. It's like, well, what if you cut this tentacle off and like 2 grow back? That's stupid and kind of cool. Again, this is something you're probably never going to actually run. Yeah, anyway. Regenerative Tentacles. Whenever the tentacle of the Fathomless drops to 0 hit points, roll a d20. On a roll of 15 or higher, the tentacle stump regenerates, growing 2 new tentacles in its place of the same type. So Crushing in this case. Oh no. Each new tentacle is of a random variety: Crushing, Psychic, Acid, or Venomous. Roll a d4 to determine the type of the regenerated tentacle. To prevent the tentacle from regenerating, it must have taken radiant damage or damage from a holy or blessed weapon in the same round that it drops to 0 hit points. So this is something that's really scary. This is something that, again, you don't want to encounter. This is also something that has a weakness. If you have, for a lot of other creatures like the Hydra, it's fire damage. Or the Trolls, it's fire damage. For this guy, it's radiant damage or damage from a holy or blessed weapon. And I added the radiant damage. Obviously, it's a damage type that makes sense. The holy or blessed kind of covers any loophole of like, hey, be a cleric, it's just kind of a provision there just in case the damage on your weapon isn't explicitly radiant, but in your world does count as holy or blessed, or if you're blessed, a lot of kind of like room for the DM to kind of play with that a little bit. Okay, let's move on. Multi-attack. The Crushing Tentacle makes 2 attacks. So it's a plus 18 to hit. On a successful hit, it's 30 bludgeoning damage. If the target is a creature, make a saving throw or be grappled. Same kind of grapple from the spawn. While grappled in this way, it's restrained and takes 20 bludgeoning damage at the start of each of its turns. So it's like constricting, wraps around you and starts crushing you. Crushing Constriction. Next action. The Crushing Tentacle constricts a creature that it is currently grappling. Creature must make a DC 27 con save or take 44 bludgeoning damage or on a failed save or half as much on a successful save. Burrowing ambush. The crushing tentacle can burrow underground and emerge in a different location within 100 feet of its bonus, within 100 feet as a bonus action. Surprising creatures within 10 feet of its emergent point unless they succeed a DC 20 perception check, or they could already see the tentacle. Creatures surprised in this way are knocked prone, and then this triggers an Noxiable Force. So again, we go back to that kind of like burrowing up, things fly, make dex saves, all kind of stuff. So the burrowing ambush is something that you can use as a bonus action, and just burrow and just kind of appear somewhere else within 100 feet. And as long as the creature in the space where it's appearing doesn't see it coming, doesn't see where it's this location, it is surprised. So this is really pretty good for like ambushing straight out the gate. So in 2014, then you get a surprise round. In 2024, you'd roll initiative with disadvantage. Then you get Destructive Slam. This is an ability you can use once per day. The crushing tentacle slams into a structure, ship, building, etc. within its reach. The structure takes 150 bludgeoning damage. If this damage reduces the structure to 0 hit points, it's completely destroyed and collapses. Each creature within 30 feet of the structure must make a save or take lots of damage, or half as much, and you are knocked prone. So this is the crushing one. We have 3 more. We don't have time to get through each one of these today, but I will let you know that the PDF for these guys is for free. In the description below is a link to where you can go grab them. Please go grab them, play with them. Let me know what you think. We both, me and my friend Aaron, did a lot of work on this, and it was something we're really proud of. Again, this is not something that like you're gonna run, because these are just way too powerful. These are things that are like godlike, and even a party level 20 would have a hard time beating these things. But we'll talk on one more thing. So again, we'll touch on one more thing before we get going. But right now, let's just move real quick to something that you can use in your games. And these are also included in the PDF down in the description below. Spells of the Fathomless. I thought, okay, well, if the Fathomless is a patron, it grants pack magic, it should also have some kind of magic. Or to be more clear, what kind of magic comes from a pact with this being? And so I got these spells of the Fathomless. Basically, these are summoning spells. So the Fathomless Blessing, I'll read this one right out here, is a 6th level conjuration. Casting time is 1 action, 90 feet. Components, verbal, somatic material, concentration for up to an hour. You can summon a tentacle of the Fathomless, choosing from crushing, psychic, acidic, or venomous, which appears in unoccupied space that you can see within its range. The tentacle disappears when it drops to 0 hit points or the spell ends. The summoned tentacle is hostile to all creatures, and you can use a bonus action to command the tentacle to move and take an action. If you don't issue any commands to the tentacle, it attacks the nearest creature it can see. And then at higher levels, you can increase the hit points. Additionally, tentacle's damage rolls increase by 1d8 for each level slot above 6. So yeah, if you upcast it, you get more hit points, and it hits harder, which makes sense if you're upcasting it. So I have even smaller stat blocks, again, in the PDF for these spells. And we have one for each one of them. So the crushing tentacle, we have the psychic tentacle, the acidic tentacle, and the venomous tentacle. All of these guys kind of do the same type of thing. They each have their version of the grappling and doing damage and being able to destroy buildings. It's just they do them differently, and they have small details that have been changed. Not only just are the damage types changed, but some of their abilities and how they function change a bit too. So as a warlock, you'd have something kind of to play with there. I think these are really cool, and what I would do actually is, if you're going to run those deep ones like I talked about, and the deep one priests, I would give them this spell. This kind of lets you conjure this thing that can do a lot of damage. Oh, and by the way, the conjured versions of these are kind of more spectral, and they're not the actual, you don't use the actual stat block we talked about. You'll use the stat blocks located in the spell description. So it has 45 hit points instead of a lot more. It has a better walking speed and burrowing speed. It's a challenge rating 2, is really what it is. So you kind of get these lesser versions of the big thing, like as a reflection of the power that the Fathomless can do, which I think is really cool. But anyway, guys, that's all the time we have for today. Let me know if you found any of these interesting. Again, the PDF for these is found down in the description below. Go check it out. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And I would love to actually know which, as we continue on with our Monster of the Week program, which monsters are you most excited for? And is there something specific looking ahead that you'd like me to cover about one of the monsters? Maybe you have your own homebrew idea you'd like to submit to the podcast and we can talk about it. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you guys found any value in this whatsoever, just feel free to hit those likes, subscribe, all those kind of buttons down there. It really helps the YouTube algorithm push out our content. This is something that we really believe in and we love to just bring to you guys for free. So all we ask is that you just interact with this video, share it with a friend, all that kind of fun stuff. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. We will catch you guys on Friday.